Look, everyone. Real people.
Real people.
That's my hair.
You can see their faces and everything. I tell you, it's really great to be able to sit down with you guys and sit down with you guys in a place we've had so many memories, not just us, but like I'm gonna get choked up already. We just started.
No, we did. Jesus.
But we had. I mean, I was an apprentice here in 2000. A long time ago, and John was the boss man back then. He gave me so much good advice and all that stuff.
I hope I did.
One of the things you told me early on, you got to stand up straight, Mike.
I said that.
Because I was always rolled over all the time because I was like, so beaten down, like, man.
You seem to have figured that out.
Yeah, I caught that.
Good for you.
But man, like, even just driving up today, like every time I come up here, the memories that I have are so strong, and it's one of the places you don't cut like for y'all. I guess it's a little more. You're here every year,
Right.
For singers and stuff, and for visiting artists. Every time you come back up here, it's a flood of memories that you've sort of not forgotten about, but just kind of put in the back burner. And the second you turn up into Central City, man, everything starts coming back. From when you were an apprentice to that first shot you guys gave me to do Dead Man Walking, which was one of the happiest calls I ever got in my life.
Oh, good.
It really was, because as a young singer, your first apprenticeship is such a big deal, and to get validated that way, and in that way with Dead Man Walking, which was so incredible. And I guess all that is to say that there's so much. This show is about connection. It's about the thing that brings us back to this art form over and over again, and makes us sacrifice all kinds of other things that regular folks take for granted just so we can do this thing. And those connections that we have between each other are the bonds. It's really the fuel that makes us keep coming back. And through this crisis that we're all in the middle of right now, one of the really inspiring stories that I have seen has been members of the Central City family, bonding together and coming together, not just to put some paint on the wall or do some repairs and things like that, but also just being together in the middle of this when so many of us were separated. We
Right.
miss each other so much. And seeing you guys up here, and Emily and Johnathan, you guys up here podding up so you can be together, and be able
Right.
it was just heartwarming for I think the whole Central City family really felt connected to this company then, because we could see that which we wanted so much, which was to reach out and hug our colleagues. And you guys could hug, right?
Right.
Because you guys podded up.
We literally could hug. That's right.
So tell me, how did that come about? I mean, it's kind of crazy that a bunch of musicians would just get together and decide to throw on some painter's pants and start sprucing up the campus. So how did that go on?
Well, for me, it started off by the fact that we weren't going to have a season as we normally do, and I needed to work, and I needed to figure out a way to earn my money. So I came up with the idea, well, gee, since no one's going to be in Central City anyway, no one's going to be in the properties, no one's going to be in the houses, what if I went up and helped out by doing the very things you mentioned, painting, whatever needs to be done. I did a lot of watering of plants. One of the big days up here in any summer is planting day.
Right.
The entire guild comes up and they plant a ton of flowers and plants. And that was still planned because the plants for those have to be ordered back in December.
Yeah.
And paid for then. So then the nurseries from which they get these plants start planting those plants, and that was all pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So the guild decided on June 10th we're going to have planting day like we always do. Why don't we maybe build a little concert around that, which they did. So I don't know, it was like 50 guild members came up, and I'm a guild member too, to plant all those plants. We had the little concert. Then from then on, I started watering the plants. I'd get up at, 5:36 in the morning, And it takes about somewhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours to really water them well every single day.
There's no drip lines.
There are some drip
Or one
lines
or
to some places, but most of the stuff you see needs to be hand
Well,
watered.
it's all these out of the way places and
Right.
stuff, and that's what part of
Exactly right.
what makes it beautiful up here is everywhere you turn.
Totally.
There's beautiful landscaping that
Right.
that the guild has.
And usually in the summer we have interns that are part of the ushers, 2 or 3 of whom are assigned all the gardening duties. Well, all that's gone, so I was part of the gardening duty this summer. And once the news about that got out, then we got some calls from people like Johnathan Hayes and Emily Pulley, and as soon as we got an okay from the big boss, we basically had COVID refugees come here and stay here because they knew they could. We welcomed them with open arms. They, in order to pay for their stay, quote unquote, they were willing to do the same thing I was doing or we were doing, paintings, so forth. So anyway, they showed up, and then of course the little concerts we had started to do around the Opera House and the gardens and the terrace across the street, we realized, hey, maybe those two guys would like to, those two guys, Emily and Johnathan, sorry Emily, would like to sing in these, and sure, they were all for it. So it all just started to build and build, and that's why we have those concerts that you can now watch. Just one thing turned into another thing. It was all good, As far as those guys living upstairs from us, that was a natural. We had the space. Brian is nothing if not a chef, and so he's always wanting to cook for people. So we would sit around, just like you said, a family, sit around the table every night and have dinner. So it was always, Taco Tuesday or Soup Wednesday or Pasta Thursday or whatever it was, but we had themes every night, and we would all sit around the table and just talk about anything and everything we wanted to talk about. And it's like they've since gone home, sort of a week ago, and we're like bereft without them. And I think maybe they are a little bit without us, but so something bad turned into something good, as a result of this. And so,
do you guys found a lot of support with each other like that way, just because we're all going through this trauma together?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I talk about the gardening and planting day and having people up here having some life in Central City was a real morale booster, certainly for us, because we could be up in Central. The idea of not being in Central City for a summer, because I've been here every summer pretty much since '94, and the idea of not being up here, man, that was a blow. I did not want that. I wanted to be up here, and so to be able to be up here, but then also and live in the house and having our COVID refugees upstairs, which included Emily and Johnathan, and I also have a private music student, a viola student, who he was hoping to go away to a festival or to go to a music camp or do something this summer. Well, of course, all of that got ruined. Yeah. So he too was joining us and coming up and spending a little bit of every week up here, and I would give him lessons down in the Teller house, but he would help him paint and garden and mow the lawns and do all that. So it was like that we had this house here, which we all felt great about, but then the townspeople and also company people, just knowing that there was still life in one of the opera houses and along the street. We had city maintenance workers, people from town thanking us for being up here, and and there's a sign out in front of the Teller house saying all of these plants are here. Thank you to the guild. As a way of, remember, we'll be back. We're just not here this summer. But to be able to have all those plants out and to have, the town feel a little bit of vibrancy. Because when we first came up here, I started doing painting and working in the houses on June 1st. And at that time, the casinos weren't open. There was nobody in town other than the townspeople. Yeah. But the only traffic going up and down Main Street was city maintenance trucks. Yeah. And that was it. So the morale of having a little bit of life in our house, the other day when we were moving some stuff out to take home, a city guy goes by in his truck and he's like, "Are you guys heading out?" And we're like, "Yeah, pretty soon." He's like, "Well, boy, it's been great having you here."
Man.
And he was the same guy. He was working down on the street one day when they closed the street for a concert. And I had done a concert with Emily and Johnathan and also Jennifer that night before, I guess. And I was walking down the street and he was standing there with the stop sign, making sure traffic couldn't go down Main Street. And he's like, "Were you playing viola last night?" I'm like, "Wow, first of all, you knew that was a viola?" But second of all,
You played that big fiddle.
yeah, you're playing that. God, I loved that so much, and that was the same guy that thanked us the other day for being here and thanked John any number of times and also helped out with "Hey, can I help you out with, this lawn, the debris here in your lawn and all that."
Yeah,
So.
the truck would literally stop like in front of Sour House, and I had gathered up all the branches that had fallen from the trees, and he goes, "Throw this in my truck."
Yeah.
Because otherwise I would have to carry it to a dumpster or something. And
Yeah.
so there was a weird bonding experience between us and especially
community.
the city guys
Yeah.
that you see every summer. It's not like they're not here. You just don't have time to do anything with them. Well, this summer we did.
Yeah.
Well, and also
So-
they could put specific faces to, and get to know us a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and that'll only carry through to next summer, when we come back, hopefully for a regular season, and those same guys are going to be here, and
Yep.
they're gonna be like, "Oh, great, you're back!" So it's a real feeling of connection.
Well, the great, the affirming thing about this story for me is that one of the things I've been preaching for about a decade now, and really so a lot more in the past 2-3 years, is that opera is a service. It's meant to be a service to its community, and to see you guys actually serving the community, and not a way that where they're normally being served,
Right.
but like you're actually serving the community. You're connecting to the people that are here, and you're still, you're doing the planting. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like when I was watching it, it seemed like a real act of defiance to this thing. Like, you could take our music away, you can never take the spirit and the love
And us.
and us. You can't get rid of us. So,
Yeah, we're here.
And when you were talking about Johnathan and Emily being up here and how much it leaves a hole for you guys, right?
Yeah.
So what I thought would be nice is if maybe we could get those guys on this call here.
No way.
Oh, no way!
And say hi.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Look
no
who it is.
way!
Look who it is.
We
Oh,
miss you.
Ah,
they're the last I missed.
Boy, I miss those sounds.
Oh,
Those
look
are the
how
best sounds in the world.
I'm gonna bring you guys in a
crying.
little bit. So
excellent.
Oh,
The most beautiful sound I ever.
oh.
I miss you guys.
We miss
You're on
you
the
too.
back porch of Upper Lake?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
yep. Yeah, we could be outside and yeah, it was just the right place to be. So,
Perfect.
Fabulous. Yay.
oh, this just made me cry.
I thought it might.
Come here, you come. Look who else is here. Zadie's around. Some here she is.
Sadie Bird.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Oh, Zadie Bird and Lois Lane.
Yeah.
It's Z.
the family's all together again.
Uh-huh.
It is.
Oh my gosh.
It is. I'm so happy.
Yay.
That's the kid. Yeah.
Well, we bonded in such a great way this summer that it's like a lifelong bond. It just, I don't know, it took our friendships and our professional relationships and it just kind of shot them to hell. And we have a whole new, not that that isn't going to happen again, but it's just something we couldn't have planned and couldn't have foreseen. And so every day I think about you guys and not only how much fun we had, but we did a lot of work.
We did.
Ate a lot of food,
Yes.
there's that.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. Anything I else say would be kind of you know,
We're really family, you know. We connected in a way this summer that I think could have happened, but no, it couldn't have happened this way, the way it did this summer. Just the connection and getting to spend time, getting to know you all the better, and it's your family.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
love you guys.
Love you too. And
We
you
love
know,
you too. We miss you. This is it's hard being away. Mike, I don't know how much you guys have talked about how we got out there, but this was Emily and I were just on the phone one night, and I had seen a post that Brian had put on Facebook, very small. It was in a comment section, and I saw that they were up the hill doing some work, and I said, I was in New York City going nuts, and Emily was down in Texas, and I said, what? I said, I've been thinking about asking them if they need help up the hill, and I never dreamed they would say, yeah, come on up. But that's what happened.
And did we ever? You're like, well, what about if I come up in like 2 or 3 weeks? I'm like, no, come now. Just get out here.
Absolutely, it's very true, and indeed, I basically cleaned my apartment, threw my stuff in my car, and drove out to Colorado.
Yeah.
Are you back in New York now, Jonathan?
I am visiting family in Pennsylvania, and I have mostly been masked when I'm inside. My parents have a big back porch that we can sit on, and I sit out there most of the day, and we're able to be far enough apart that we can feel pretty comfortable and confident. And none of us have engaged in risky behavior, but you know how it is. They're in an age demographic where they would be considered at risk. So we're just being as careful as we can be.
And for an opera singer not to engage in risky behavior, that is an achievement. That's an exercise in self-discipline.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Emily's proof of that with her busted wrist.
Yeah.
Risky behavior.
oh,
Oh.
Yeah, how'd you hurt your arm there, Emily? How'd you break your wing?
some rebar jumped up and grabbed me. I was hiking. It was a beautiful hike, and then gravity took over.
As it tends to do.
But Emily, you're in the car. Are you
Okay.
on your way
I'm
home?
sitting in a McDonald's parking lot. I'm at Lake Whitney.
Oh, nice.
So that route. Population 500. Yeah, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I borrowed my niece's hotspot because I have no Wi-Fi. So anyway, technology.
Yay!
I like that.
Yeah.
Solid hee-haw reference, Emily. I appreciate that.
Yeehaw! I knew you'd get that. Yes. So I'm headed back to College Station actually a day earlier because I have too much that's technology related, and I can't be out at the lake. So anyway, I'm headed home tonight, and then head to New York on Friday.
Oh boy!
Right into the belly of the beast.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you guys talk a little bit about what it meant for y'all to be able to come to a place? We were talking earlier about how for us that were part of the Central City family, but that were separated from our Central City family and from our opera family. It was really beautiful to see our friends be able to be together and to go through this thing together, as opposed to, I'm fortunate that I'm married to Megan. We're both singers. We had each other to lean on. But there's so many folks out there that are in our business that aren't married. They don't have a community. Or I have some friends that are in New York City. They never leave their apartment. They're stuck in those apartments. And can you just talk about what it meant for you to be able to have this experience, to be able to go through this with some people who really understood what this meant to the performing community?
Johnathan, you go. You go first.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to go first. I was in my apartment in New York City when COVID-19 forced the shutdown, and so what I was hearing all day, every day, were sirens. I live on the 16th floor, so I could look out. I could see ambulances like literally fanning out across the top of the city. It was eerily noisy when the sirens were running, and very quiet when they weren't, because no one was outside. In New York City, we live our lives out of our apartments. We're whether it's running to rehearsals or going out to dinner, going out to breakfast, going out to lunch, having a drink with someone. Socializing happens out a lot more than it happens in, because we live in small space. And so for almost 90 days, I was stuck in 425 square feet. I named my experience after a set of Billy Collins poems called Sailing Alone Around the Room. I would kind of go from my piano station to my window station to my desk to my couch and to my kitchen. And I had about 6 kind of areas where I could be in my apartment, where I would feel like it was a slightly different experience than the one that I was just having. But aside from those 6 stations, I really didn't get out a lot. I did have a good experience that some people on my hall who were doing the same things, they invited me to give concerts every Sunday. And so every Sunday I would wheel my piano up to the door. Everyone would open their doors and have a little cocktail or libation, and they would sit their chairs in the doorways of their apartments, which are all, more than 6 feet apart. And then we would have about a 20 to 25 minute concert, and then we would all just kind of talk. And that was the most face-to-face conversation that I would have week in, week out. So that was a great experience, but it was very, very limited compared to what I'm used to.
Yeah.
I had it relatively easy. Things didn't get crazy in Texas until really after I left. So I had a lot more freedom. But, of course, my heart was in New York, because it was I just couldn't imagine what it was like to, I would hear from Johnathan and other friends in New York. And Johnathan even said that he learned a song in the same key as sirens so that he could play it.
Yeah,
drown out the
true.
sound, and and so it was just that feeling of being pulled in 2 directions, and so I was very grateful, to be pulled in a really positive direction and have a place to go. And as John and Brian have said, it was an even more positive and uplifting experience than I could have even hoped for. So the hardest part, as my voice catches, the hardest part is coming down from that. Reentry. Burning up on reentry is always tricky. So I'm glad Johnathan has his family. I'm glad I have my family, and I'm glad I'm coming back to New York. So because I tell you, withdrawal from our happy home in the hills.
Oh boy,
It's been very hard, very hard.
Yeah, that's really true. I mean, certainly for me, getting out of New York was actually a major priority at a certain point. I realized that I was starting to go a little nuts. And when I wrote to Brian and John, can I come? When do you want us to come? And Brian said, get your butt out here. I drove out as fast as I could, and it was really a lifesaver.
Man. Did it feel...
Happy belated anniversary, you guys. I meant to say happy anniversary a couple days
thank
ago.
you.
Thank you.
Is that today?
Thank you.
Is it Friday?
Friday.
You hit Friday.
Yeah.
The more you have, the less weird that is,
I don't know what day it is. Yeah. Yeah, we were sure you could have been here to celebrate with us, but the house is very quiet and empty feeling right now. So that made me think, well, I guess it's time to go home. I guess it's time to move stuff back down the hill, because
pepper grinder.
The pepper grinder. That was a heck of a shot you had there, Emily.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Pepper grinder.
Yeah, I've never seen a pepper grinder with batteries before, but
I promptly burst into tears when I saw it after Paul told me. So anyway,
I don't know if you knew, we had hidden this pepper grinder, which took on a life of its own here in the house, amongst her stuff in her car, so she never knew it was there.
yeah.
Until she knew it was there.
The pepper grinder was our trophy at the dining room table. Again, we ate together every single night. We would eat, and if someone said something witty, the pepper grinder would go in front of them as the award. And so,
wait, with Emily Pulley,
Yeah, she kept winning.
wasn't this always in front of her?
well, that and the 17-year-old that was staying in our house. Boom.
Oh man.
Our work
You know,
here is done.
In a place like this, when we first started talking, I was talking about how, when we come back, as you know, when you're here every single summer, that's one sort of way of experiencing Central City. But for us that come and go, every time we go away for 2, 3 years or a year or 5 years or whatever, or 15, like the first time, when you come back, this cascade of emotion and memory hits you like a brick wall when you make that turn down there by the pot shop and you see yourself coming into town. And I have a lot of fond memories of that place. But oh man, that first summer. And
First dispensary.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
but when
Very
you
proud.
when you finally got up here and you're having that experience, all those memories coming back, and then you come here and your sensory memory is, it's the summertime of Central City. There should be 50 young artists everywhere, orchestra members running around, principals coming in from all over the world, people having parties, people doing all this stuff. And you come up here and it's just quiet.
Yeah.
And
Well,
this is a place that lends itself to ghost stories. There's always the stories about the ghosts at the cemetery that you don't ever talk about, which I'm making a big mistake right now. Because I heard if you talk about them, they follow you home.
Uh-huh.
Well, let us know.
Yeah.
If old Lou Bunch shows up, I'm going to be in trouble. But did you have a sense of like walking around this town among ghosts, whether they be real ghosts or ghosts of memories or ghosts of colleagues that have since passed, or just those memories? What was that like to experience that?
Well, I mean, it helped that we had, daily interaction with John and Brian, and also, the historic properties manager really made us feel like we were part of the community. So it just felt like we were part of a different community. But, of course, being around that opera house, it has a life of its own. And so the fact that it was sitting there silent and, we saw it every day, that was just a reminder that but it felt more like we were in a waiting place. It's like, it's just a matter of time. It's going to be back. And so I felt like, the work that we did this summer didn't feel like, it was just busy work. It felt like it was preparation for next year and for the future. And so that gave me a real sense of hope. And it felt very like we were doing something very positive, and it kind of took on a life of its own. And, the fact that we were able to do those outdoor concerts, again, that feels like, well, to beat a metaphor into the ground, John is up every morning watering the flowers. And so it felt a little bit like, we were metaphorically watering the flower and keeping it alive, and it was keeping us alive in the same way.
Yeah, people were the Central City Opera family was in some ways out of sight, but never out of mind. I know every time I walk past Sky Cottage, which was just up behind the Dolby House where we were staying, I thought about last summer and the people who were staying there, all of the many parties that we threw up there. and then walking past the Opera House regularly, seeing the names on the billboard outside. It certainly made me miss everyone, but the work that we were doing was inspiring me and reminding me that everybody will be back doing what they do at Central City Opera before you know it.
I'd said earlier that having the planning day and making sure that you had the plants here, and then that felt like an act of defiance to this pandemic to me. It was like we're not gonna. But it occurs to me now, just when you're talking about the concerts, next to the beautiful opera house that's sitting there quiet, and like you talked about, you're watering the soil. It was an act of defiance. Like we wouldn't be silenced, and I think there's something so inspiring for all of us in the larger operatic community to see that in the face of this, in a pandemic that would ostensibly put a place like this down, just nothing for the summer because of the circumstances of it. This act of defiance was so inspiring to us, man. It really was. I mean, I've talked to other people that have been here, and they said, "Guys, see what they're doing up there, man? It's just beautiful." And it's just this refusal to sit down in the face of this pandemic and to stand up and do something and to water the soil, to water the artistic soil of this place.
Well, and to tie together what you had asked before about the ghosts and of feeling like, were we walking around in a ghost town? I think the first couple of days when I was here, the initial shock of there's nothing going on over in the Foundry, there's nothing going on, in the Opera House. All of the residential homes around here are empty, and that was a couple of days. But then that quickly changed into, well, we're life. We're going to give this place life. We're going to do this, and yeah, it's not the experience of having the opera running, but man, did we live this summer, and again, having our family, that we created together, and I think every once in a while we were kind of talk about. I think we all mentioned at some point, I sort of feel guilty that we're so happy, that we're having such a great time, that we're like, yes, I'm sorry the operas didn't happen, but man, we were happy, we still are, but we I felt a little bit guilty about that, and I'd see mention of how happy we are with people responding to, well, yes, it's a very different summer this summer, but I'm like, yeah, but we've had some really good results from being here. Our connections with the townspeople, the city maintenance people stopping to give treats to the dogs and to say how happy that they are that we're here in town. And I'm sorry that the operas didn't run, but we gave life to this place, and we used the Foundry. Yes, we used the Opera House as a backstage when we were doing outdoor performances, and so we were in the Opera House. But we gave life. I think we gave respect to the buildings around here. So,
well, and all the things we did, the painting,
right,
the repairs, the stuff like that, is all for the future. Like. When I was painting this one really great bedroom in Upper Weckball, one of our houses, I kept thinking, wow, this is so much better than it was, and whoever's going to be in here next year, they may not know what it looked like before, but I will know that I made it better for you, person living in Upper Weckball. And so did you all. We did Parish House. We did a lot of places, right? Even the laundry room is very special now.
Nice. Is Weckball the one that had that electric blue walls? Or which one is that?
The one we were in was kind of pea green and brown.
Yeah.
It was very dark. And,
yeah.
So and kind of yellow, mustardy yellow, maybe.
Yeah, it was ugly. It needed work.
So we were definitely working on the future of this place. You know, the people that will eventually assemble here to do what we do. And so even though we've been stopped from doing mostly what we do, we were able to try to make the environs better for the people that will show up next year. You know, so everything was about the betterment and the future of this company in particular, getting back to doing what it does, getting back to doing what we do. So I'm very grateful not only to you all, but the powers that be at Central City Opera had to allow this to happen. Like, they could have let these places just be empty and not pay any electricity on them or water and stuff. But they invited us to stay in our old house, and then by extension we invited you all. And that couldn't have happened without some foresight from Pat Pierce, Scott Dessens, and people who were in charge. So it turned into a really great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very grateful to everybody who enabled this summer to happen. We were very lucky to be there, and I feel very fortunate to have been a part of it.
Yeah.
When you do these things, we always talk these metaphors and analogies and stuff. It's just natural, right? We talked about the act of defiance and all this stuff, but in farming, you know, they'll often, they'll plant a field and plant a field and plant a field and plant a field, and all the nutrients will be sucked out of the soil. And then they have to rest that field.
That fallow year that
Yeah.
you have to have. Yeah.
And when I was watching you guys do all this up here online, that's what it felt like. It felt like the soil is resting, it's recovering. So that, I mean, when this, I mean, knowing this audience, knowing how much this place means to them, I know that this rest period will drive up their passion.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if every show was sold out next year.
Yeah.
Because they've been forced to miss us. You know, so much of an opera, we're always being like, please look at us, please come. You know, please, we promise it's really good.
Look
you
how
know?
hard we're working.
Look, I'm sweating, there's veins, forehead veins. Can't you see? You know how heavy this costume is?
Wait, so Maze, would you say that this is a fellowship?
Oh, there you go.
Where's the
That's
brand?
what I missed.
Thank you. Thank you.
The royalty of wordsmith here.
A fellowship. I like it.
Fellowship. Well, could you guys just, you know, as we come to the end here, could you guys tell us about a few stories or a few moments that really sort of exemplified this experience or made it special? Or like a night where Emily's already laughing, I could tell.
Well, Emily and I, and to some extent Johnathan, but not so much Brian, we got back in tune with our progressive rock selves. Because every morning when I would go out and water the plants, I'd put on my noise-canceling headphones and have to listen to something, you know. And so we had discussions about prog rock and what does it mean and what isn't it, and what's the instrumentation of, you know, Jethro Tull versus Kansas, etc. See, and even Lois Lane was in on that.
Lois is back.
Lois, come
So
here.
I listened to albums from the 70s that I haven't heard in 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
So that we could have something to talk about at dinner time, right? I mean, that's really true. So we just kind of got out of ourselves and into something else, you know. I don't know. That was kind of fun for me anyway. Maybe I'm just being selfish.
Oh, yeah.
for saying that, but,
Me too.
yeah.
Because, you know, that's another thing. When I don't tend to listen to music for fun as often as, you know, I used to back in the day. And so it was kind of nice to revisit all the stuff that, you know, I'd listened to for hours, you know, every day after school. So it felt like it was a lot of nostalgia happening. So that was really fun. And, you know, there was just always, well, we never would have run out of stuff to talk about. I mean,
That's true.
That's just silly.
There's a lot of music trivia, though, that we did,
A
right?
lot of music trivia.
Lots.
But it was also, you know, we were all so suggestible. Anybody would start a song and it would be stuck in our heads for like the rest of the day. And so, you know, anything that would happen became instant, you know, family lore. So that to be brought up at any time, appropriate, inappropriate, or never.
Plenty of inappropriate. Yeah.
Yes, totally inappropriate.
It is nice to be around a group of people who are as equally inappropriate as you are.
Yes.
And then you don't have to worry about offending anybody because you're
That's
like,
right.
oh, the only offensive thing is if you weren't cracking
I
jokes and
know.
stuff.
There were times when I offended my.
Uh-oh. That was a good line, too, I could tell.
I could tell that was going to be good.
Yeah.
All had to
You have to
rise
say
to
that over
Emily's
again.
level.
Emily, what did you say about there were times when you offended what now?
Myself, but no one else.
That's
It's
funny.
like, wow, I can't believe I said that. But I seem to,
Come on, me.
You know, this
this
is one of those. This is one of those times when we're all going to look back and say, "Where were you during the COVID?
Yeah.
What did you do during the COVID? You know?"
The Rona.
And I just think we have great stories to tell. We're very fortunate in that way because, as we mentioned earlier, people are stuck in their homes and their apartments and all the other things. We weren't stuck. We were unstuck, and we got to be in this special place for 9, 10, 11 weeks. And I just feel very lucky. I mean, I know it sounds crazy to say, or that we were all stuck together and got to do all the things that we did get to do. But I think it's a testament not only to the place, but to the bonds that we already had and just strengthening those, And obviously, it's not anything we're ever going to forget. But I don't know. I wish that other people had those experiences. I know a lot of people didn't have them.
Yeah.
And I feel badly about that. I feel bad about that. Not badly. Come on, Emily's standing.
That's what happens
It's
after
like
every
every
word
word
with
that
Emily
I'm
Pulley.
Emily the wordsmith is going to. My favorite wordsmith of all time. At least
But
I
and I have to say, my for me.
I hope
Go ahead. No, I was gonna say for me, my high points, of course, involved food.
Yeah.
The every evening, putting food out on the table and tutti a tavola a mangiare. Everybody come to the table to eat, or Johnathan walking downstairs in the morning, and I'm like, hey, you want an egg? And it's like I have to give you something. I have to make something for you. Here, you want an egg? Or bacon or
That was
whatever?
why I was walking down the stairs, that's for sure.
Yeah. Smaller bacon. I'm like, you want some?
Jonathan.
I think those are the things that I miss the most. I miss coffee with Emily in the morning because we would have coffee for like 3 hours every day. And then dinner at night, which was, yet again, like 2.5, 3 hours every night where we would laugh so hard that we'd bust a gut. In fact, Brian literally busted a gut and had to have
Sure.
And had to have surgery to repair it.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's your fault. That's what it is. It's y'all's fault that did that.
That's right. That's correct.
It's all us.
Look, comedy is not a weapon, guys. Come on now.
Yes,
Oh, it's
indeed.
totally a weapon.
In Emily's hands it is, for sure.
Right.
There's a weapon of mass destruction
No,
joke there, but I can't make it. I need
Yeah.
Emily's power there.
Yes.
Yes, it's all good. It's all good.
Okay.
My niece asked me, she goes, so what was your favorite part of the summer? And I promptly burst into tears.
Oh.
Oh, never mind.
We had so much fun.
I didn't know this was happening today.
I didn't know this was happening today.
I didn't know this was happening today.
Oh.
Man.
So good. So good.
Well, I know that
Thank you all so much. Oh my God.
it's hard to what John was saying, which is I can definitely understand, is that when you are having a positive experience, and you feel sort of like is it bad for me to share this? Is it a bit like neener?
It's like survivor's guilt or
Yeah,
something like
right.
that, yeah.
But I want to tell you that I know, like for me and for people that I've talked to from this family, it was incredibly affirming and just made you feel good to know that somebody was doing something up here. Anytime you leave this place, you always want to come back and always want to come back. And the idea that this place would have sat quiet and would have just kind of closed, and that just broke everybody's heart.
Yeah.
And so from everybody who's ever worked here, thank you for doing this, and thank you for sharing this with us. Because I know that everybody that's ever worked here is going to watch this episode and be happy.
Yeah.
And so, your happiness that you guys had is contagious. It will help everybody.
Good.
And this will help everybody. And seeing the work that you did, and I know that the work you guys did this summer, letting the field rest, giving it a little bit of fertilizer here and there to make sure that this ground still works. The crops that we so metaphors were, and I was
Sometimes it was manure. But
yeah, of course. It's good stuff. It's the best fertilizer. But the art that will be grown here after this summer, I mean, it's going to be different everywhere.
Yeah.
But I just know that what's going to come here next summer is going to be spectacular, and they're all going to feel the effects of the work you guys did here.
I hope so.
And so I want to thank you.
And I think next year for many companies, many people, next year we're all hopeful, but it's going to be a celebration,
Yeah.
of like we're back together again, and the company's back, and we celebrated all summer, but now we'll share with everybody else. Let's celebrate. Yeah.
Yeah. All of that. All of those things. It's so good to see your faces.
I know.
You too.
Do you want an egg?
Wow.
Want an egg?
An egg? Let's have an egg.
Well, before we sign off, do you guys have anything you want to say to each? I can leave if you want, but I mean,
No.
We'd
Well,
like to
thank you.
my maze. No, just that I can't wait to see you again. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. I love you both, and miss you terribly.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Love you too. That's yeah.
Thank you, Mike, for doing this. This
Hey,
is
my
great.
pleasure.
you.
I knew I had
expected this. So.
I've always wanted to do the surprise guests.
Yes.
And this, I was like, oh, this is perfect. So I had no choice.
That's
So
great.
I talked to
Perfect.
these guys a couple of days ago, I guess. And I was like, hey, what are you guys doing at 11 o'clock on Sunday? And they were like, we're there. Like,
Yeah.
Emily is sitting in McDonald's parking lot with me right now, so she could be a part of this. So, man, it's just wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
Thanks for having us on, Mike. It's great to see you too.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yes,
Take
good
care.
to see you too. Love to Meg and
Uh-oh.
Oh, my connection's unstable, just like me.
Oh boy. Yeah.